You're listening to Chicago Stories, a podcast from City Hall featuring the stories of everyday Chicagoans, as told to Mayor Emanuel.
This is Mayor Emanuel on Chicago Stories. We're joined by Mario Miller, who is an electrician with the Illinois International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers and teaches at Dunbar High School, our new trade school, and Javier Lopez, who's one of his first graduates and is now is it an apprentice at the IBEW, or how do you?
Trainee. He's actually in our trainee program.
Yeah, and this is our first introduction of a new trades back into the Chicago Public High School.
Absolutely.
So, Mario, tell me a little. You started at McCormick Place, and if I have it, you went from television,
yes,
to electrician,
yes,
to now teacher.
Yes. So
is it fair also to say then to mentor?
Absolutely. Speaking of this kid right here.
Four careers in one lifespan.
That's right. That's right. It's still working on them.
Yeah. So tell me what it was like to go from TV to electrician to teacher.
Well, to go from television, production-wise, this construction was the same. Mm-hmm. There's a timeline, there's an expectation, and you just have to meet that deadline. So it was easy to kind of fall into the fold of how construction works. The challenge was just actually learning the trade and doing the work, because when you sit behind a desk in front of a computer, you're not picking stuff up and moving stuff around. So it was actually it was different, mm-hmm. but I'm glad I did.
You like teaching?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So weird story. There was a question.
We
on
love
the radio.
weird stories here on Chicago Stories. We're the center of weirdness right here.
I was listening to the radio one day on my way to work to O'Hare. And there was a question, if you could go back and do anything and teach, would you do it? And I actually called in, got through and said, yeah, I would go back and teach, and I would teach whatever they wanted me to teach. It didn't matter. And so when I got off the line, I just never thought that I would actually be teaching at CPS at any day and time. So it's interesting how things happen.
What made you decide to get into, how'd you learn about Dunbar? I'm really proud of this personally, mm-hmm.
Because
I don't know, about 30 years ago, trades were taken basically out of the school. Now everybody's clamoring to get them back. How'd you hear about Dunbar, and why electrician versus carpentry, or did you explore any of the other trades? And what are you thinking about for your career?
Well,
in 5 words or less. No.
Well, to add on, to another weird, Chicago great story.
Okay.
I, decided to go, join Chicago Builds on my sophomore year and, get into my junior year, because I saw that they was offering, hey, you want to get your school time cut in half and, and go travel. And I'm like, oh, really? See Chicago? While going to, a trades, and plus it was for a girl. So
okay. All motivation comes that way. So that's right.
And so eventually,
she wanted you to go into the trades, your girlfriend?
Not the trades, just go to Dunbar, period, and just like, hey, okay. come to Dunbar. I got this program. We can spend more time. And I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't like high school anyway. And
Where were you at high school?
CVS or CVCA now.
Yeah.
And so once I got in, it was kind of weird at first. I didn't see people who I knew around, from my school, because I was the only person from my school, who does it. And so, it took some time getting used to. But then once I started getting, into the trades, like my first trade, because it's a 6-week rotation for my first year mm-hmm. as a junior, was welding. And I was like, oh, wow, this is what mm-hmm. trades are like? Oh, it's fun, man. I'm having fun. I'm melting metal together, building things. And then I was like, in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, man, electrical, I want to see what that's about. That's what I really want. And then, worked my way up. Then I did carpentry. It wasn't really fun with carpentry. Just splinters. Mm-hmm. Didn't like them. Mm-hmm. Then did HVAC.
Same problem. That's exactly the same excuse I give my wife. I don't really like splinters, honey. I would love to do it, but I can't.
And then did HVAC, which is heating,
right.
air conditioning, cooling, and ventilating. And then
so you really got I don't mean to put words, but you got the salad bar, mm-hmm. meaning you went through all the trades, some exposure, mm-hmm. to then find an interest.
Yes, sir.
If this program didn't exist, would you think you had found the trades? Or you really needed this type of exposure to know that this is, whether it's electrician or not, a vocation in the trades was an offering?
In all honesty,
yeah.
I think that I would have still went to the trades, because as a kid, I always had an idea of being like an electrician, but I didn't know what it was called, because I was always fascinated with electricity. I was always fascinated with.
You were the guy trying to burn the house down by flipping the switch up and down. That guy, that kid. But this made it easier.
Yes, it made it a lot easier, and it was an amazing, and still is an amazing experience to this day.
So what happens, and Javier, you're now, I know not an apprentice, but you become
He's a trainee now.
Trainee. For people listening, what's the timeline for trainee to apprentice to journeyman? What does that look like?
So, well, if I could, let's go back to
You can do
the
anything you
Chicago.
want. Don't worry, we're going to edit
All right.
you out.
So the Chicago Bills program is a 2-year program, which Javier had an opportunity to experience. In the second year electrical shop, that is the 40 weeks of electricity, because this is the decision I've made. I want to be an electrician. And so upon completion of that, we have a registration specifically for the kids that participate in Chicago Bills. And after that, they get an opportunity, barring that they qualify, like driver's license, which Javier took forever to get. But
That would be so you could get to the work site, Javier. Okay.
yes, and he might have to drive a company vehicle. I mean, they move stuff around. And then, so now you've been a trainee for
About
3 months.
3 months.
And so, after 6 months after starting, he has an opportunity to take the test. So we require that they do not more than a year, but up at the 6-month point, if they feel like they want to be an apprentice, they're more than welcome to take the test.
And the apprentice, if assuming you get the test, you're in. And the apprentice is how long?
5 year. The apprenticeship is 5 years. I did.
But
a
you're
5-year
working projects while you're doing that apprentice.
Yes. So you go to school for first year 11 weeks, then you go out into the field. Second year you go for 9 weeks, back out into the field. So it's a lot of it's hands on the entire time, and you just have to do your classwork. So say Javier takes a test. Let's say he doesn't do so well. He still has a little time to take it again.
Like people do the law degree, like they do the GMATs and all the other.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
People
So-
take ACT.
See, it's the same.
Right over here. Public candidate. Somebody's raising their hand multiple times. Yeah, people take tests multiple times. So you looking to a career in it?
Yes, sir.
You still got the girlfriend?
No.
Oh, let's be clear. Then we got in a trade, but you lost the girlfriend in the trade. Okay, well that's okay. You got
It happens.
It happens. Yeah. How many fellow students now are going kind of where you are in the build program or in the partnership area?
Well, if I may answer that, there are 14 kids that came out of that decided they wanted to be electricians.
Oh, I see.
So that was a huge jump.
From where was it before?
1.
Okay.
So the first year we did it, it was trying to get people interested,
Right.
and it wasn't as successful.
It's first year.
But the second year, that's when it really we got a good batch
Do you think
of
we got our
kids.
mojo here?
I think so.
Okay. Anybody else in your peers and
Yes.
Javier, they've entered other fields, meaning
No.
carpentry,
No, not-
HVAC, or is electrician the big one?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you're the big dog on the block.
You like that glass building next door to Dunbar? It's alluring.
Oh man, it's beautiful.
It is a beautiful training facility down near McCormick Place. I'm trying to give people, it's right there on the edge of Bronzeville and McCormick Place. So, and excited for you? Your family excited for you?
Oh, they're belated. They're happy. They know they're happy that I'm making a difference in Chicago, and just. I know they would wish me, go to, take the college route, but I spoke to them. I said, hey, Ma, I'm helping make Chicago look beautiful, because we have a beautiful city. If you've ever been out there on the lake, by Navy Pier and just see Chicago, it's beautiful, and I'm making it as beautiful as I can make it.
She's your mom. She's going to be proud of you, man. If you were to say today, and you watching what's going, what do you want to work on? What do you want to? Is there something you like? Hey, I want to look back and say, that's my deal. I helped build that.
To be honest, I really would like to get my hands on the Barack Obama Library. I would love to have a hand in making that.
You know anybody that knows him?
No, I haven't. Oh man.
Well, you know what? That is so cool. And I want the whole idea for the President's Library is obviously it will document his presidency. But I know one of the things he's working on is to make sure. I don't want to speak for him, but I did that for 2 years of my life, so I'm going to do it again for about 2 minutes. is to make sure that young men like you have a chance to put your thumbprint and look back and tell your kids one day, I built that. And but I have all the confidence we're going to get it through the court so you can do exactly what you want to do. That would be cool.
Yeah, I also did, I don't know if you heard, but DePaul University, I've done all the solar panels at DePaul University. Yeah, so it's all hooked up at DePaul, so, you know.
Was that your first project out in the field, the solar panels at DePaul?
That was my first major project. My first project was just smaller, you know, just clean up, laborious work, you know, straighten things up.
We all did that. That's called, like, in the office, that's called Xeroxing.
And then the month after that, you know, I went to DePaul University, and it's been amazing.
Was it a sense of accomplishment? How did you feel? I mean, I'm trying to get at, why did you think it was so awesome?
Just to see, you know, it's kind of weird. I do this, I like it, not because of the recognition, it's because I won't get the recognition, just to see somebody smile, be like, hey, I made that guy happy, I made him, you know, I helped him with his work, and I don't need any recognition. That makes me happy, you know.
All right, that's cool.
Yeah, he'll be able to go back and tell stories about, you know, I built that. I do it all the time still.
Mario, I'm going to press a little on the issue. Having, you know, I think the building trades are great, and I know right now we have a situation we have an unprecedented boom in Chicago.
Yes.
All the building trades, there's not a single man or woman on the bench. And in fact, if I'm not mistaken, a lot of them are now pulling people out of retirement because they don't have enough folk.
And that's exactly why this program is effective, because some of the stories that you hear, or that I had an opportunity to hear being in the classroom with the kids, is that they didn't know what a tradesman was. So it gives me an opportunity to tell my story, talk about all of the different buildings that I've worked in and worked on. I actually shared a story when I first got here about McCormick Place West expansion. Well, I was a year out of my time as a journeyman, and I made GF, General Foreman, for McCormick Place West expansion. So whenever you're over in that building and in the wintertime and it's warm, it's because of me. See, he'll have stories like that.
Now,
too.
do you feel that accomplishment?
Oh, absolutely.
That same sense, like you're going around that, I did that.
That's right. That's like Rush Hospital. I did that building all by myself.
Let me ask you, you know, there's a position that the building trades for years didn't let men and women of color in. Obviously, you've been wouldn't be a GF if you weren't there. So what's the truth, and what does it take to make sure that there's a diversity in the trades if the label or tag on the building trades is that they haven't really been open to everybody?
Well,
and do you buy that?
I don't, because one, a lot of that's just like with anything. If people aren't informed, just like the kids that come through builds, if they don't know, then how do they know where to go? So I help facilitate their interest.
Do you think it was a lack of information?
Absolutely. Absolutely. More so than anything else. Especially during my...
Well, how'd you learn about it? Meaning IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers.
Well, I know some electricians, and I tend to investigate everything. I like to know.
Call into radio shows unsolicited. Ask to be a teacher. That kind of stuff, you mean?
Well, yeah, we won't
don't
tell
ask for a
that.
wish that you don't want.
But, you know, it's one of those things where and I always share this with the kids, if you have an interest in something and you have no idea how to get there, then you have to ask. And so you just start asking people, even just like Javier's first experience working as an intern, he was talking to some people, some electricians on the job site, and that just enhanced his interest in wanting to be an electrician. So a lot of it is more so a lack of information and being informed. And the opportunities are there. It's just getting there to take advantage of it.
I will say, you know, I mean, taking on this subject is one of the things I heard most frequently, you know, when we rebuilt the entire Red Line, South Side, how many people in the neighborhood said it was great to see men and women, principally men, to be honest, who came from the South Side or lived on the South Side, working on a project. You know, it was the biggest project on the South Side at the time, which was a $1 billion project rebuilding the line. And I think that's a big statement of, you know, I always say that kids cannot be what they cannot see.
Right, absolutely.
And if you can see Mario working on something, you can put in your imagination. Right.
That's right.
So I'm going to ask one favor of you. Javier, I want you to go back to Dunbar when you're an apprentice and tell the kids, I also have a school for you. I don't know if you'd like going to the West Side. I know how the rivalry here. But Prosser's going to become the school on the West Side. Same thing. Mm-hmm. We're going to put a trade school, a build program on the far West Side. So the kids at Prosser, like the kids at Dunbar, get exposed to the trades, get exposed so that when we build the airport, now, your teacher here won't go back to the airport. He'll only do McCormick Place, but you may want to be, when you're done with the Obama Library, you may want to be building Terminal 2.
Right, that's right.
But, I mean, I do want you to go back and talk to, what would you tell them? What do you think you would tell them? I know it's early. You haven't really you haven't taken even the test yet, and I'm already putting you on. I have you building Terminal 2, and you haven't taken the test yet. But
man, that's accelerating.
The one thing I would tell them is to believe in yourself, because a lot of kids in our community, you know, coming from, you know, the South Side of Chicago, you know, and seeing what it is, we don't have a lot of self-esteem, you know, and a lot of kids feel that they can't do the things that they see other people do. They can't picture themselves as the mayor. They can't picture themselves even as an electrician, a doctor, a lawyer. And so I would just tell them, like, just believe in yourself. That is the main key, and work hard.
How do you think we would do as a city, not just me as mayor, but the city and parents? How do you think we do get kids to? I mean, there's this program BAM, and somebody says, what does it do? I said,
oh, it's amazing. I was in BAM.
You were in BAM too?
Yes, sir.
I said, my biggest thing is all it does is help kids believe in themselves. Yep. It's the self-discovery part. I mean, how do we do that better? Is BAM it, or is there other things?
I think it just starts in the community, you know? It starts by just lending a hand. And if you can lend, you know, if you can just get a neighbor to reach out to maybe their neighbor and then, you know, keep the chain going, that would be amazing. That's what the IBEW on King Drive, the Union Hall, is doing. They have, you know, events, they have fundraisers, they have, you know, soup kitchens. That's what they're doing. They're helping out the community around that area, you know, and not just for that area, but so that area can, you know, go on and teach, hey, come over here. You know, we have a helping hand. We want to give a helping hand to you. We don't want to make you feel that you're alone. We're here together as a community, as Chicagoans.
You know, 30 years ago, 40, they pulled the trades out of CPS.
Sure.
Kind of and at that time, everybody was arguing that we were pushing some kids towards college, kind of like what your mom was saying to you, Javier. And that you didn't want to dual track, have only certain kids not thinking about college, but the vocation. I thought it left kind of a bad taste in people's mouths, and we actually diminished the role of trades, and we've been paying a price for it as a city ever since.
I have to agree with that. Because, I mean, 30 years ago, I was one of those teenagers that the emphasis was on college.
Where'd you go to high school?
I actually went to high school.
I didn't mean to cut you out there, but go. Yeah.
I went to Brother Rice, so I didn't go to CPS.
So they were pushing you to college, your family and everybody.
Well, it's more of a family. It was more of a family push, and even quite a few of our students that participate in the Bills program, there were several of them that wanted to get into trades, but they said, if this college thing doesn't work out, then I'll come back. You know, they were doing it. One kid said, I'm doing this for my mom because she wants me to go to college, but he really wanted to be in the trades. So back then, when I was a teenager, the emphasis was on college, and I just never really thought about being in the trades or having it as an opportunity until I was working in television and said, you know what, I want to do something different. But, and I always shared this with my students, I picked being an electrician because I can do it anywhere in the world. And, you know, just for those guys to try to help them see the opportunity, just explaining things to them like that, you know, it helped them open their minds up to the possibilities of being in the trades.
How would we get more students to Dunbar and Prosser? What do you think we should do? Because I know the second year is better than the first year.
Oh, absolutely.
But for this to be what it should be, I mean, I think you would agree we're fighting below our weight class over at Dunbar.
Absolutely. So, I mean, for one, we have to do a better job at marketing it. I mean, you can't have someone market the trades that doesn't know about the trades or has never been in the trades. So to go out, because I talk to people on the streets, anywhere I have an opportunity, and I tell them if it's not for you, maybe it's for someone that you know, and just try to get the word out as much as possible. I mean, I think I'm doing okay, and the students had an opportunity to see that. We talk about not just the financial gain of being in the trades, but the fact that as long as you have a skill, you should never be hungry. You should never be hungry. So you can always take care of yourself.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Well, the one thing is, I remember Alderman Will Burns and I working on this project, and it took a lot, but
Oh, yeah.
You remember that.
Yes, I do.
To convince people to put the trades back in the school, a school, not every school, because we never had, but then, and make this, the first year I was wondering, well, one Javier signed up. I was like, well, the adults wanted this. What happened to the kids? But now it sounds like we're getting some traction here.
Well, the kids telling their story helps.
Right.
And they're kids that have come back up to the school and that have kept in touch, and they always saying thanks because they had no clue that this opportunity was there for them. And so even with, like, we have Dunbar in the Central, we got Prosser out west, we do something far south, and I think we can really harness a much larger market if we would do something like that.
My whole thing with, the new airport, the modernization of the new blue and the red and purple on the CTA, the new stuff that's going on in office buildings and apartments, and also in the residential, and not counting other types of investments that are happening at both the universities. That should, through thick and thin, that should basically ensure that we have growth for those with the trades in carpentry, electrician, iron workers, operating engineers. That to me is key.
Absolutely.
And you can get a middle class standard of living, and you can put your own kids through college.
Absolutely.
Mario, how much of your job is teaching, and how much of your job is mentoring? Given what Mario and you should, Javier, jump in about the role of not Mario specifically. If you want to talk about him, I'll sit between you, and you can say whatever you want about him, so he can't slug you or anything. But you mentioned about kids believing in themselves, and to me, you also described what Mario does is what BAM did. So how much of this is teaching, and how much of this is also mentoring and helping young men make good choices and guiding them? So what do you try to? You can teach people you could almost teach me, which my wife would really appreciate. But to me though, hearing you guys, almost 80 to 90% of this is getting Javier and others, and I don't mean to talk to you, and I want you to jump in, Javier, but to think about themselves differently and realize the possibilities that they have if they just focus. They have all the game that they need.
So I would say 90% of it is mentoring.
Yeah.
10% of it is introducing them to electricity, because we can't teach someone how to be an electrician in a short period of time like that. I speak to them about being mature, because one of the most important things about being an electrician is getting home the same way you left home. So, and it takes time to learn how to.
What does that mean?
You want to go back home. You don't want to die at work. So that was something that was stated to me when I was an apprentice, and I just never forgot it, and pushed and was very diligent about learning my craft. And I try to put the same emphasis on the kids, with this being exploratory for them. Half of the battle is getting them to believe in themselves and being able to demonstrate to them how this would be good for them. Especially if, because you have students that say, I don't like school, and I'm tired of school. But here you have an opportunity where you do school and you actually work and you make some money. And so you just have to explain it to them in a way that it makes sense to them.
All right. Is your mom, she wanted you to go to, what was that kind of conversation with your mom, if you don't mind me asking, about college versus trades, and what does she do?
So before I entered, Chicago Bills and Dunbar I always told my mother, hey, Mom, I want to go to college. I want to do something in the field of computers. Computers the next thing. I always had a gift for doing things with, IT, and, but I felt like it wasn't enough. I felt like it was something out there missing that I really wanted to do. And so once I explained to her, hey, Ma, this is what I really want to do. At first, she really didn't like it. She was like, well, are you sure this is this is what you want to do? What if the recession, hits again? What are you going to do after that? Or what if you're going to do if you, lose a limb? Because if you lose a very important limb, you're out, And I just told her that, well, I have teachers, I have mentors, I have peers, I have good, amazing people around me that are pushing me and pushing in my head to be, safety, wellness, timeliness. As Mr. Miller said, Mario Miller, he said, being, growing up, being the dope, handling your business, and eventually, when I start paying rent, now she's like, oh yeah, I like it now,
Yeah.
and so
Parents only come in one size. All right, we got the rapid round. You get your own answers. You don't. All right. Cubs or Sox?
It's White Sox.
Go ahead, Javier.
oh man,
He says, "Go on."
I'm gonna say Cubs.
You can say whatever you want.
Go
Okay.
Cubs.
Thick or thin pizza?
Thin.
Then, absolutely.
Okay, you guys are not really doing well here. You don't want to- I'm joking. Sears or Hancock Building?
Sears.
I go with Sears
Okay.
or Willis.
We'll stay with Sears. We're old school here. River or lake?
Lake.
Oh, wait a minute. What time of the day? What time of the day?
No, you just answer. You pick the
Okay,
time.
the river.
Okay.
The river.
12-inch or 16-inch softball?
16.
16.
Oh, well, you say that like a guy that likes thick pizza, brother. Javier, I really want to thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I think we can make sure that if you get through your apprenticeship, I got a library that's a presidential library that needs building. And so we'll make sure. Mario, I really want to thank you.
Sure, no
for,
problem.
You could have done anything as a general foreman, and you're back teaching kids and giving them a chance. So I really want to thank you. And I'm also, more importantly, it took a lot to create the Dunbar program.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good that it didn't fall flat on its face. And
Oh, we weren't gonna let that
I know that, but I appreciate. And you owe me one gift. You know what that is?
What is it?
You're going to go back and you're going to explain to both Dunbar and other schools what this opportunity provides in a sense of when you become an apprentice. I just want you to be an ambassador for the program.
I will.
All right,
Thank
man.
you.
All right, Chicago Stories, Mayor Emanuel.
You've been listening to Chicago Stories with Mayor Emanuel. You can subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts and tweet your guest ideas using hashtag ShyStories. Thanks for listening.